Alexandra Morgan stepped out of the sleek black sedan and paused, her eyes tracing the grandeur of the Calloway estate. Perched gracefully on a hill overlooking the city, the mansion seemed less a home and more a fortress glowing softly in the evening twilight. Alexandra, the CEO of Novatech, straightened the lapels of her tailored navy suit and felt her pulse quicken, not from nervousness, but from the weight of the moment. This $150 million deal with Calloway Enterprises would catapult Novatech into a new era of influence. As she ascended the marble steps, Alexandra caught her reflection in the polished windows, poised, confident, resilient. Her dark skin glowed beautifully against the fading daylight, her curly hair meticulously styled into a graceful chignon. Yet underneath her outward calm, she knew the stakes tonight were not merely financial, they were deeply personal. Inside the grand ballroom buzzed with murmured conversations and discreet laughter, a symphony of privilege. Crystal chandeliers cast shimmering patterns on marble floors, illuminating the array of powerful guests who represented the city's elite. Heads turned as Alexandra entered, a ripple of whispers trailing her path. She was accustomed to such reactions, the surprise, the skepticism, sometimes thinly veiled disdain. But tonight felt different, more pointed, more hostile. Across the room, Nathan Calloway stood with practiced ease beside his father, Jonathan Calloway, the patriarch whose lineage embodied wealth and influence. Nathan's dark tuxedo complemented his sharp features, his eyes coolly assessing Alexandra as she approached. His lips curled subtly into a smirk, betraying a silent judgment she'd grown all too familiar with. Jonathan Calloway stepped forward, first his handshake firm, his voice polite but guarded. "Welcome, Ms. Morgan. We're pleased you could make it." "Thank you, Mr. Calloway," Alexandra replied, her voice steady and composed. "I'm looking forward to finalizing our partnership tonight." Before Jonathan could respond, Nathan's voice cut through the courteous atmosphere, loud enough to command attention from surrounding guests. "Father was there, some mix-up. Did the caterers arrive early tonight?" The room fell silent instantly. Alexandra felt a flush rise in her cheeks, her heart thudding heavily against her chest. Every gaze fixed upon her reaction, a collective breath held in morbid curiosity. Jonathan Calloway did nothing, his expression frozen between embarrassment and reluctant acceptance. No guest intervened. Instead, eyes darted away, feigning interest in their champagne glasses or hors d'oeuvres. Alexandra allowed herself one slow, controlled breath before turning gracefully toward Nathan, meeting his smug gaze directly. Her voice was soft, but carried clearly through the now quiet hall. "Nathan, you seem confused. I'm Alexandra Morgan, CEO of Novatech, the person here to rescue your company from technological irrelevance." A few quiet gasps punctuated the silence. Nathan's smirk faltered, his eyes darkening momentarily. Alexandra offered Jonathan a respectful nod, a dignified smile, then stepped away, her heels clicking confidently on the polished marble as she walked towards the terrace doors. Outside, the cool night air brushed against her heated skin. She leaned slightly against the ornate railing, breathing deeply, willing her composure to remain intact. Yet memories surfaced, unbidden, similar dismissals, whispered insults she'd faced on her journey through prestigious universities and corporate boardrooms. Each moment had strengthened her resolve, yet tonight's humiliation struck deeper, wounding her pride in ways she thought she'd outgrown. Behind her, she heard soft footsteps approaching. Alexandra glanced sideways, catching sight of Michael Bennett, her trusted advisor and Novatech's CFO. "You handled that well," Michael said, quietly, genuine respect in his voice. "Better than anyone could have expected." "I shouldn't have to handle it at all," Alexandra murmured, her voice edged with quiet anger. She turned to face him, eyes shimmering in the dim light. "Sometimes I wonder if these battles ever end." Michael stepped closer, placing a comforting hand briefly on her shoulder. "They won't end until people like Calloway are forced to see beyond their prejudice. Tonight, you didn't just represent Novatech, you represented everyone who's been pushed aside because of ignorance and arrogance." Alexandra nodded slowly, her determination renewing itself in the silence. She knew Michael was right. She wasn't fighting just for herself or her company, but for every overlooked voice, every dismissed potential. From inside laughter and music, resumed guests returning to their privileged illusions. Alexandra squared her shoulders, took another steadying breath, and prepared herself. Tonight had become much more than a business deal. It was now a declaration of values, an assertion of dignity. Before stepping back into the fray, she cast one final glance at the glittering city below, its lights twinkling like distant promises of a better tomorrow. Promises that could only be realized if someone brave enough dared to challenge the status quo. Enjoying this story? Remember to subscribe for the next gripping installment of Alexandra Morgan's fight for dignity and justice. Alexandra re-entered the bustling ballroom, the bright lights and polished surfaces, a stark contrast to the quiet dignity she had reclaimed on the terrace. The whispers had subsided, yet lingering glances followed her movements discreetly. Ignoring them, she gracefully navigated toward a reserved table where Jonathan Calloway waited, his expression composed yet unreadable. "Ms. Morgan," Jonathan said quietly as she sat down opposite him, "please accept my sincere apologies for my son's behavior. It was entirely unacceptable." "I appreciate your apology, Mr. Calloway." Alexandra responded evenly, meeting his gaze without hesitation. "However, it is Nathan who owes it, not you." Jonathan shifted uncomfortably, a flash of irritation crossing his eyes. "Nathan will understand the gravity of his mistake, believe me. But let's not let this incident derail our potential partnership." Alexandra paused, considering carefully her next words. "A partnership must be based on mutual respect, Mr. Calloway. Respect is a line that once crossed changes everything." Jonathan sighed softly, leaning forward slightly. "Novatech is in a position to change the technological landscape, Alexandra. Calloway Enterprises recognizes this. You could transform our future and your own." Alexandra shook her head gently. "My future isn't determined solely by a single deal, no matter how lucrative. My dignity and the integrity of my company matter far more." The older man's eyes narrowed thoughtfully, assessing her resolve. After a moment, he leaned back, resignation evident. "Is there no room for reconsideration? An official apology from Nathan, perhaps?" Alexandra's voice remained calm but resolute. "Words without genuine understanding or remorse are meaningless. I cannot and will not trade integrity for profit." Jonathan nodded slowly, his expression shifting to reluctant admiration. "You're an extraordinary leader, Alexandra. Few have the courage to prioritize ethics over ambition." "It's not courage," Alexandra replied softly. "It's necessity. Change happens when we refuse to tolerate injustice, no matter the cost." As Jonathan rose and extended his hand, Alexandra stood as well, returning his firm handshake. He left quietly, a complex mix of respect and regret in his eyes. Alexandra knew she'd just made one of the most significant decisions of her career, but deep down, she felt certain she'd chosen correctly. The following morning, Alexandra sat in Novatech's sleek boardroom, surrounded by her anxious executives and board members. Michael stood silently beside her, offering quiet reassurance. Alexandra's decision had already sent shockwaves through their ranks. "Alexandra," began Olivia Reed, Novatech's senior board member, her tone carefully neutral. "The Calloway deal represents an immense opportunity. Are we truly prepared to walk away from it? Olivia, Alexandra replied, her voice unwavering, that immense opportunity came packaged with disrespect and prejudice. If we accept it, we endorse those values. I understand your position, Olivia responded gently, but our shareholders and the market may see things differently. A refusal of this magnitude will have serious financial repercussions. Michael stepped forward, his voice firm yet supportive. Integrity has always been a cornerstone of Novatech's success. Sacrificing our values for short-term gain undermines everything we stand for. Alexandra nodded appreciatively at Michael before addressing the room again. We stand at a crossroads. Choosing profit over principle might offer immediate rewards, but risks long-term damage. Real leadership means defending our core values, especially when it's difficult. A heavy silence settled over the boardroom. Gradually, heads nodded in understanding. Alexandra saw the tension visibly ease, replaced by resolve and shared commitment. She knew the challenges ahead would be enormous, but felt fortified by her team's unity and purpose. After the meeting adjourned, Alexandra retreated to her office, gazing out at the city skyline. Her phone buzzed, displaying an incoming message from Jonathan Calloway. Alexandra, though I regret your decision, I deeply respect it. Perhaps someday our paths will cross again, under better circumstances. She sighed softly, a bittersweet satisfaction settling over her. The road ahead was uncertain, yet she felt confident they'd chosen the right direction. As Alexandra contemplated her next moves, her inbox flooded with urgent notifications. Industry insiders were already questioning Novatech's future. Yet amidst the chaos, a surprising voice emerged clearly. A leaked recording from the event had surfaced online. Alexandra clicked play, her heart racing. The audio was unmistakable. Nathan Calloway's arrogant, contemptuous words echoed clearly for the world to hear. In an instant, the tide began turning dramatically. The leaked recording spread like wildfire across social media and news outlets. Within hours, the hashtag #ChallengeRespectMatters trended globally, and Nathan Calloway's face dominated headlines. Outrage swept through online communities, condemning his behavior and demanding accountability from Calloway Enterprises. Alexandra sat quietly in her office, scrolling through the flood of supportive messages pouring into her inbox. For every moment of pain she'd experienced, dozens more voiced solidarity and admiration. Yet her heart ached at the necessity of such a public reckoning. It wasn't victory she felt, but a somber acknowledgement of the magnitude of prejudice still entrenched in powerful circles. Across town, panic gripped the Calloway Enterprises executive suite. Jonathan Calloway paced anxiously, glancing furiously at Nathan, who slouched defiantly in a chair, eyes fixed stubbornly on the floor. "How could you?" Jonathan demanded, his voice trembling with restrained anger. "Your arrogance has jeopardized everything we built." Nathan looked up, defiance barely masking fear. "It was just a joke. People overreact these days." Jonathan slammed his hand onto the polished desk, his tone sharper now. "Your joke has cost us our reputation and possibly our future. Novatech was our lifeline. Without it, our investors will flee." Nathan finally paled, the gravity of his actions hitting home. Jonathan sighed heavily, shoulders sagging under the weight of the crisis. "You need to issue a public apology immediately, authentic, remorseful, convincing." Nathan hesitated briefly, then nodded silently. Jonathan exited abruptly, leaving Nathan alone to contemplate the damage he'd inflicted, not just on the company, but on himself. Meanwhile, Alexandra prepared for an unexpected press conference. She stood backstage, adjusting the microphone discreetly pinned to her crisp white blouse. Michael approached with a gentle smile. "Ready?" he asked quietly. She nodded firmly. It's about more than just me or Novatech now. This is about everyone who's been silenced or disrespected. Stepping onto the stage, Alexandra faced a room packed with journalists, cameras flashing relentlessly. She took a deep breath, feeling the strength of countless supporters behind her. I appreciate your presence today, she began clearly, her voice calm yet powerful. Recent events highlight deeper issues within our society, issues often masked by power and privilege. What happened to me is neither isolated nor insignificant. It is reflective of systemic disrespect and prejudice. Journalists leaned forward attentively, capturing every word. Novatech will always choose integrity over profit, Alexandra continued. This isn't merely a business stance. It's a moral obligation to reject partnerships that undermine human dignity. Real change comes only when accountability replaces tolerance of unacceptable behavior. A seasoned journalist raised her hand, standing to speak. Mrs. Morgan Nathan Calloway has just issued an apology. Do you accept it? Alexandra paused, thoughtful. An apology is a necessary first step, but true remorse demands meaningful action. This moment requires introspection and genuine change, not mere words crafted under public pressure. Another journalist asked sharply, "Are you calling for a boycott of Calloway Enterprises?" Alexandra shook her head gently but firmly. My call is not for vengeance, but awareness. Consumers and partners must decide for themselves whether a company's ethics align with their own values. Her words resonated powerfully, quickly becoming headlines. Alexandra's composed yet uncompromising stance turned her into a global symbol of integrity overnight. Back in her office later that evening, Alexandra watched news coverage of widespread protests outside Calloway Enterprises. Young people held banners echoing her sentiments. Integrity is priceless. Respect matters, and our dignity is not for sale. Michael entered softly, placing fresh coffee on her desk. You've ignited something important, Alexandra. She looked up at him, eyes reflective. It feels like an immense responsibility. It is, he agreed gently. But you're not alone. Her phone lit up again, this time with a message from Jonathan Calloway. Your words today forced me to confront harsh truths about my company and myself. Calloway Enterprises is initiating a thorough internal review and meaningful change. Thank you, Alexandra. She sighed deeply, gratitude mixed with cautious hope. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with challenges, but perhaps real progress was finally within reach. Loving Alexandra Morgan's empowering journey. Subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the thrilling continuation. In the days following Alexandra's powerful press conference, Novatech found itself at the center of a transformative wave. Offers of collaboration and investment flooded in from leading corporations eager to align themselves with Novatech's principles. The once questioned decision to reject Calloway Enterprises was now hailed as visionary, defining Alexandra as a beacon of integrity in the business world. Late one evening, Alexandra sat in her office, sifting carefully through partnership proposals. Her meticulous focus ensured every potential partner shared Novatech's values, ethics, innovation, and human dignity. Michael knocked softly before entering, holding a thick folder embossed with a distinguished logo. Alexandra, this just arrived, he said, placing it gently on her desk. Sterling Global Industries wants an exclusive partnership. They're fully supportive of your stance, and they match our values perfectly. She opened the folder quickly, scanning the impressive details. Sterling Global represented more than financial opportunity. It symbolized validation and support at the highest corporate level. Michael observed her quiet reflection. You've earned this, Alexandra. This is a moment you've fought hard for. She looked up, gratitude evident in her eyes. Not just me, Michael. We've earned it. Every single person who believes ethics and respect can thrive in business. Soon afterward, Alexandra found herself on stage again, this time at the prestigious Global Leadership Summit. The auditorium buzzed with anticipation as influential figures from around the world awaited her keynote speech. Alexandra stood calmly backstage, breathing deeply, her heart steady and determined. Taking the stage, she surveyed the vast audience before her, pausing briefly as respectful silence settled. Tonight, I speak not merely as the CEO of Novatech, but as someone who has personally encountered prejudice hidden behind power. She began, her voice clear and steady. We live in times where success is often measured solely by wealth and influence. But true success must also embrace dignity, respect, and ethical responsibility. Applause rippled through the auditorium, affirming her message. Alexandra continued passionately, "My recent experience reminded me, and hopefully reminded all of us, that dignity is never negotiable. Ethics are not optional. Real leadership requires courage, the courage to stand up, speak out, and sometimes to step away from opportunities that compromise our core values." The room erupted into applause again, attendees rising to their feet, moved by her sincerity and conviction. Alexandra's powerful words echoed widely, resonating far beyond the summit's walls, inspiring countless discussions globally about ethical leadership and respect in corporate culture. Amid this triumph, Alexandra received countless heartfelt messages, but one stood out distinctly. A young girl named Mia, just 15 years old, wrote passionately, "Dear Ms. Morgan, your bravery inspired me deeply. Because of you, I now dream bigger, believing I can become a CEO someday too. Thank you for standing up for all of us." Alexandra folded the letter gently, placing it in her desk drawer beside other treasured reminders of her journey's impact. Moments like this underscored the true value of her struggle. Meanwhile, Calloway Enterprises reeled from the continuing backlash. Under intense scrutiny, Jonathan Calloway implemented radical reforms to address internal biases and rebuild public trust. Nathan, humbled and contrite, stepped back from leadership, choosing instead to quietly engage in education programs addressing racial sensitivity and corporate ethics. In her office, Alexandra watched news coverage of Calloway's reforms with cautious optimism. Change, though difficult and painful, appeared possible. Her phone rang suddenly, displaying Jonathan Calloway's direct number. She hesitated briefly before answering. "Ms. Morgan." Jonathan spoke sincerely, his voice weighted with respect and genuine humility. "I wanted to inform you personally that Calloway Enterprises has formally committed to a comprehensive diversity and ethics initiative. Your stand profoundly changed how we operate." Alexandra responded warmly, "I appreciate your commitment, Jonathan. Real change requires courage, and it seems you've found it." A pause lingered before he spoke again. "I regret the circumstances under which we met, Alexandra, but I'm grateful our paths crossed. You taught us a crucial lesson we desperately needed." She smiled softly, her voice filled with quiet resolve. "It was a lesson we all needed, Jonathan." As she ended the call, Alexandra gazed thoughtfully out at the city lights sparkling below. The road ahead was clearer now, yet her mission remained far from complete. A year had passed since the transformative events surrounding Alexandra Morgan and Calloway Enterprises. Novatech had flourished beyond expectations, propelled not just by financial success, but by the principles that had defined Alexandra's leadership. The company had become synonymous with integrity, ethical innovation, and genuine respect. Alexandra stood quietly backstage at an exclusive gala event moments before accepting the prestigious Global Leadership Award. The atmosphere backstage was electric, Yet Alexandra felt a profound sense of calm and gratitude. Reflecting on the year past, she understood clearly how deeply personal courage could ripple outward, inspiring profound societal change. The gala host's voice resonated through the auditorium, calling her to the stage. Taking a deep breath, Alexandra stepped forward, confidently greeted by thunderous applause. Standing before a captivated audience of influential leaders and changemakers, she began speaking with heartfelt sincerity. 1 year ago, I faced a pivotal moment that forced me and many of you to reconsider the true meaning of success. Success isn't simply measured in numbers or corporate power. Real success lies in upholding dignity, respecting others, and refusing to compromise one's core values, even under intense pressure. The audience listened intently, absorbing every word. Our choices define our legacy. Alexandra continued, her voice carrying a quiet intensity. When we choose integrity, we empower not only ourselves, but countless others watching and learning from our example. The legacy we leave isn't wealth or accolades, it's the courage we inspire in future generations. A standing ovation filled the room, heartfelt applause echoing her message's resonance. After the ceremony, Alexandra navigated through warm congratulations, finally stepping onto a quiet balcony overlooking the city skyline. Moments later, Michael joined her, smiling warmly. "You've truly changed things, Alexandra. People everywhere recognize what Novatech and you represent now." Alexandra shook her head modestly. "It's a change everyone contributed to. We just dared to lead the way." Below city lights glittered gently symbolic reminders of countless lives influenced by her unwavering stance on integrity and respect. Meanwhile, Calloway Enterprises had gradually emerged from its crisis. Jonathan Calloway publicly championed profound reforms, earning cautious but growing support. Nathan Calloway remained mostly behind the scenes, engaging humbly in community outreach and educational initiatives aimed at preventing discrimination and fostering inclusivity. Late that night, as Alexandra prepared to leave the gala, an unexpected visitor approached cautiously Nathan Calloway. He seemed transformed, humbler, quieter, more thoughtful. "Alexandra," he began, eyes sincere and filled with genuine remorse. "I owe you an apology, far deeper than words can convey. My ignorance and arrogance caused harm not just to you, but to countless others." Alexandra met his gaze evenly, acknowledging the earnestness of his remorse. "Your actions moving forward matter more than past mistakes, Nathan. The best apology is a changed behavior." Nathan nodded, visibly moved. "I've dedicated my life now to ensuring others don't repeat my mistakes. I understand now the power of dignity, of true respect. You taught me that, Alexandra, and I'm eternally grateful." She offered a gentle, understanding smile. "We all have the potential to grow, Nathan. It takes courage to face ourselves honestly. I appreciate your sincerity." As Nathan stepped away, Alexandra felt a profound sense of closure and peace. It was never just about confrontation or winning. It was about growth, healing, and the enduring power of integrity. Returning home later that night, Alexandra carefully placed the Global Leadership Award beside other symbols of her remarkable journey. Yet she knew her true legacy wasn't represented by trophies or honors. It lived in the countless lives inspired to choose courage, respect, and dignity. Settling at her desk, Alexandra opened her laptop, greeted again by Mia's heartfelt letter. Rereading those hopeful words, she smiled softly, knowing she'd sparked something infinitely precious, a legacy of dignity, hope, and meaningful change.